There was a man named Mr. William who lived in the city of Lagos, in a quiet, rich place called Ikoyi. He was one of the wealthiest men in the country. His name alone could open doors in high places. He owned oil companies, real estate, hotels, and secret businesses that nobody dared to talk about. People said he was powerful, that he knew things others didn't. Some said he had touched something spiritual. Some feared him. Others respected him. He lived in a huge white mansion with gold gates, long driveways, and silent walkers. But even with all his riches, he had one big problem: he had no son. Years ago, he had married a beautiful woman named Mary. She was calm, wise, and full of grace. She gave birth to 2 daughters, Grace and Joy. Grace, the first daughter, was bold and fearless. Joy was soft and quiet, with a deep mind, but one night, everything changed. Mary died suddenly in her sleep. That evening, she had laughed and eaten with the family. She kissed her daughters goodnight. She went to bed wearing her favorite white wrapper. By morning, she was cold. Still. Gone. No one knew what killed her. Doctors said her heart stopped. But Mr. William believed something else. She had no sickness. No sign of pain. Just death. Some whispered that she had seen something she shouldn't. Others said the house was holding secrets too strong for any woman. Mary was buried quickly. Mr. William never spoke about her death again. He became colder after that. He turned all his love to his daughters. He gave them everything: cars, servants, money, but he never let them out of his sight. As the years passed, Mr. William grew older. But his looks remained the same, because he always exercised and takes care of his skin. But he never allowed his daughters to marry. "No man will take you away from me," he once said. "I will give you everything in this world." He watched his empire grow, but his fear grew with it. "When I die, who will carry my name?" He often thought. Grace and Joy are good girls, but I don't want them to marry. One night, after his usual prayers, he slept in his sacred room. There, he had a strange dream. He saw a woman standing in fire. Her head was wrapped in red cloth. Her eyes burned like the sun. Her face was serious. She pointed at him and said, "Your name will die if your seed leaves your blood. Let it return home. Let it stay within." Then she disappeared. He woke up sweating. His hands were shaking. The next day, he traveled to Ijebu to meet an old priest. The man was over 90 years old, blind in one eye. After listening to the dream, the old man said, "The crown must stay in the house. Only your blood can carry your power. Let the root plant its own fruit." Mr. William returned home and called Grace and Joy to his private room. He told them everything: the dream, the priest's words, and what he believed must happen. "You want us to give birth to your child?" Joy said, shocked, "That is madness, Father." Grace was quiet. "No one will understand this," Joy whispered. "This is not right." But Mr. William's face was strong. His voice was low. "We are not like others," he said. "This family carries things people cannot understand. If we don't protect our bloodline, it will end and many things will be lost." For days, the house was silent. Then, one night, Grace entered her father's room. She stood at first without speaking. Then she sat down and said, "Let it be me." Mr. William smiled and the deed was done. This continued for a while until Grace eventually got pregnant. For 9 months, the house was locked off from the world. Mr. William fired most of the workers. Only a few trusted guards stayed. No visitors were allowed. No calls. No noise. When it was time for the baby to come, 2 midwives from Benin were called. Sisters. Quiet women who asked no questions. They were known for handling private births for high people. That night, the sky was strange. No stars. No moon. Thunder rolled without rain. Grace screamed for hours. It was a long, painful labor. Joy stayed outside the door, shaking. At 3 a.m., the boy was born. He was silent. Calm. Eyes wide open. They named him David. His skin was pale brown. His eyes were golden. His hands were closed like fists, but he kept staring like he had seen the world before. The midwives wrapped him in white cloth and handed him to Grace. The next morning, they were paid in cash wrapped in white paper. No word spoken. They left through the back gate, but no one ever saw them again. Their phones stopped ringing. Their houses were empty. People who knew them said they vanished that night. Like they were erased from the world. David grew fast. He walked at 7 months. He spoke clearly by his first birthday. By age 2, he could read signs and books. He asked questions no child should ask. Who is my mother? Why do I live here but never go out? Why do I look like Grandpa? Sometimes, Grace would cry silently when he asked. Joy became distant. She didn't speak much anymore. She watched David with fear. Mr. William, on the other hand, was proud. He taught David the old ways, words written in dusty books, symbols on walls, and the secret rules of the family. But something else was happening. David would wake up at night and talk to someone no one could see. He would say things like, "She said she misses you, Mama Grace. She said the firewoman is coming again." One day, he entered the sacred room and pointed at the wooden staff behind glass. "This belongs to me," he said. "She told me to take it when the time comes." No one had ever told him about that staff. It was his great-grandfather's. The one who built the empire. Time passed, but the mansion never returned to normal. Even after baby David turned 4, no one was allowed into the house. Workers came and went quickly. No one spoke too much. There were no visitors, no parties, no celebrations, only silence and wealth. Mr. William, now grayer and quieter, became even more attached to David. He refused to let the boy attend school. Instead, private tutors came at night, staying only a few hours before being dismissed without pay if they asked too many questions. David rarely laughed. He rarely cried. His favorite room was the one no one entered, the old prayer room with the fire marks on the walls. Meanwhile, Joy changed completely. She was no longer the soft and smiling daughter. Her eyes were tired. Her voice trembled sometimes. She had nightmares. She often woke up screaming the same words. She said, "I didn't stop it." She said, "I let it happen." Grace was too tired to argue anymore. She spent her days caring for David and her nights crying into her pillow. But Joy was growing desperate. The weight of the secret was too heavy. She decided to speak. There was one person Joy trusted, an old childhood friend named Michael. They grew up together before Mr. William cut the family off from outsiders. Michael had become a journalist, working quietly for a small online news site. He was kind, curious, and had always cared about Joy. One morning, when Mr. William was away at a private business meeting, Joy called Michael using an old phone she had hidden for years. "Please come," she said. "I need to tell you everything. But you must promise not to speak to anyone else." Michael arrived the next day, quietly. He didn't use the front gate. He entered through the side. Past the broken fence near the gardener's quarters, Joy led him to the old library, the only room without cameras. For 2 full hours, she told him everything. The dream Mr. William had, the old priest warning, Grace agreeing to carry her father's child, the birth of David, the midwives vanishing, and the strange things David had begun to say. Michael sat frozen, his notebook untouched. "Joy," he said finally, "do you know what this means? If what you're saying is true, then this is dark. This is criminal. This is spiritual. I don't want fame," she whispered. "I just want peace. I want to sleep again." Michael promised to help. He hugged her, told her to be strong, and left through the same back route. He never made it home. 3 days passed. Joy sent messages. No reply. She called. No answer. Then she saw the news. Young journalist Michael Adeyemi missing since Monday. Last seen near Bloodline Road. She dropped her phone. She didn't tell Grace. She didn't tell Mr. William, but that night, she locked her door, and for the first time in years, she prayed out loud. That same night, Joy woke to a chill in the room. The air was heavy. The lights flickered, and there she was standing at the foot of the bed, Mary. Her mother, but she looked different. Her skin was pale, and her eyes looked tired but full of fire. "Mommy." Joy whispered, trembling. Mary didn't speak at first. She walked forward slowly, her hands by her sides. "You should have stopped it, Joy," she said. "I tried." Joy cried. "I was scared. He brought fire into this house. And now the boy carries it." "What boy?" Joy asked. "David." Mary nodded. "He is more than a child. He is a door." Joy asked, "A door to what?" But Mary was already fading. Her last words were barely a whisper. "Protect your sister." "The house is cracking." Joy woke up the next morning drenched in sweat. Her door had been locked from inside, but the floor had wet footprints leading from the bed to the window. Later that week, a priest came to the compound. His name was Father Thomas, a calm, quiet man who had heard rumors. He claimed he was simply checking in on old families in the neighborhood, but Joy noticed something. When he saw David from a distance, he crossed himself 3 times, not once. That night, he asked to pray inside the house. Mr. William agreed. But only in the living room. As Father Thomas began to pray, the lights flickered. David, sitting on the staircase, suddenly stood up. He walked down slowly, barefoot, staring at the priest. "You brought fire with you," David said. The priest stopped. "What did you say, my child?" David looked at him and whispered, "She doesn't like you." Then he walked away. Father Thomas cut the prayers short. That evening, he left and did not return, but he sent a message to Joy the next day. "The boy is not just a boy. And something sleeps beneath that house. Be careful." The case of Michael's disappearance didn't fade away. A young officer named Inspector Yinka became obsessed with the case. He had seen Michael's reports before, and something about his last location felt strange. He tracked Michael's final phone ping. It led him to the edge of the William estate. He knocked. He asked questions. The guards gave code, practiced answers. But Yinka was not a man who gave up. He started digging into the William family old records, land deeds, the death certificate of Mary, and even the files on the midwives who vanished. One night, he received an anonymous envelope. Inside, photos of the 2 midwives, a note, last seen entering the William house. Never came out. Yinka's blood ran cold. He swore to himself, "I will find the truth about that house even if it kills me." The mansion lay in complete silence. The chandeliers didn't sway, the air was stiff, and not even the rats in the basement dared to scratch at the floorboards. The wind outside carried the kind of cold that seeped under the skin, as if the earth itself knew something terrible was buried in that house. Joy had not been sleeping well for weeks. She was exhausted, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. David, now 5, was speaking in strange riddles. Grace was always quiet, drifting around like a shadow. And their father, Mr. William, rarely left his study anymore. When he did, he only ever wanted to be with David. That night, Joy took a sleeping pill. She lay down. She closed her eyes, and her soul was taken back in time. Joy found herself in a room she hadn't entered in years, her mother's bedroom, just as it looked before Mary died. The curtains were drawn. The Bible sat open on the dresser. The air was warm, thick with incense. But in the corner, by the oil lamp, a conversation was unfolding. She saw her father, Mr. William, looking younger in the dream, but his eyes were hard. Cold. Her mother, Mary, stood opposite him, her hands clenched in defiance. They didn't know Joy was there. It was as if she was invisible, just a witness to a moment she was never meant to see. "You know what must be done," William said calmly. "No," Mary replied. "You've crossed the line, William. Our name is dying, Mary. I've waited for a son for years. The ancestors have spoken clearly. Our daughters will never marry. They will bear handsome sons for me. That is the solution." Mary stepped back in horror. You want to use grace. Or joy. She spat. You want to make them mothers of your own son. It is not unnatural, he replied, eyes glowing faintly. It is divine. What we carry is sacred. If they agree willingly, the line continues. The boy will not be ordinary. You're sick, Mary whispered. This is not from God. This is something else. It is from the ancestors, no. They want me too. She screamed. They want me in my dreams. You've gone too far. William's face twitched. So you won't stand with me? I will protect my girls. Even if it means standing against you. And then he raised his hand. Joy saw it clearly, the strange red and black beads wrapped around his wrist. A flicker of blue flame danced in his palm. Mary gasped, you wouldn't. He whispered something in an ancient tongue. Suddenly, the room shook. Mary clutched her chest. Stop. William. Please. But he didn't stop. She fell to the floor, gasping. Her body shook once. Then went still. He stood over her, his voice calm. You will not stop what is already written. Joy woke up screaming. She sat upright in her bed, her skin covered in sweat, breathing like she had just run for miles. Her heart was pounding, her pillow was soaked. She clutched her chest. It was just a dream. But was it? The details had been too real. The room. The tone of voice. The look in Mary's eyes. The flames. The bracelet. Joy couldn't stop shaking. She rushed to her closet and pulled out an old photo album. She flipped through pages until she found it, a picture of her father. She zoomed in on his wrist. There it was, the red and black bracelet. The same one in the dream. She dropped the album. Her breath caught in her throat. It wasn't a dream, she whispered. It was memory. Her father had murdered their mother not with poison, not with hands, but with power, spiritual power, to clear the way for the plan, to make room for grace, to bring David into the world. Joy didn't tell Grace. Not yet, but something in her had changed. Her fear had hardened into quiet determination. That same night, she went to the old study room, her mother's favorite place, and began tearing through old drawers and bookshelves, looking for anything that could explain what she had seen. Behind a loose wooden panel in the wall, she found a thin leather-bound book. The pages were filled with Mary's handwriting. The first entry stopped her heart. I fear for what William is becoming. He speaks with spirits now. Says they have chosen grace for a holy task. I've tried to tell the girls nothing. But I hear the voices at night. Joy read every page. She wept. She screamed. She nearly threw the book in the fire. But she didn't. She knew now. Everything that had happened was planned. Everything Mary feared had come true. The air in the mansion had shifted. David had grown eerily quiet, not in the way children sometimes are, but in a way that felt intentional. He no longer played. He no longer laughed. He would sit at the dining table for hours, holding colored pencils, scribbling on paper like something was guiding his hands. At first, Grace thought it was just childhood imagination, until she saw what he drew. The first drawing was a picture of a woman on the floor. Her hands were raised in fear. A tall man stood over her, hand glowing red. And floating above them was a strange shape, and inside a triangle, with smoke pouring out of it. Grace dropped the paper. David, what is this? It's Grandma, he replied softly, not looking up when Grandpa made her sleep. Grace's throat tightened. Who told you that? He shrugged. She did. She talks to me. She said I drew it well. Grace locked herself in her room for hours that night. Joy found them under David's pillow, under the couch cushions, and inside kitchen drawers. One was a circle of fire, with her name Joy written in the flames. Another showed her father kneeling before a red throne, eyes rolled back, with chains around his neck. One showed the mansion, split in two, and black figures climbing from the earth beneath it. Joy knew now. David was remembering things no child should know, or worse, he was seeing the future. Late one night, Joy stood at the edge of her father's study. The heavy oak door was slightly open. A single candle flickered inside. The air smelled of palm oil, dust, and old blood. Mr. William sat at the desk, tracing a line across an ancient scroll with his finger. He looked tired, but not weak. There was still power in his bones. Joy stepped in. I need to talk to you. He didn't turn around. You found her journal. Joy's heart skipped. You killed her, she said, her voice trembling. She said no, and you killed her. He sighed and turned slowly. She made a choice. So did I. She was your wife. She was weak. She was right. His eyes glowed faintly. The room felt heavier. You don't understand what this family is, he said. We are not like the others. The blood that runs in you is old. Sacred. It demands preservation. By sleeping with your daughters. Joy spat. By creating him, he replied, come. The boy is not ordinary. He is destiny made flesh. You sacrificed her. And you're using grace. You've twisted everything. He stood. Do not push further, Joy. If you try to stop what's coming, the house itself will turn on you. It watches. It remembers. It punishes. I don't care, she whispered. You've brought something evil here. I'm going to end it. He looked at her for a long moment, then smiled coldly. Then you've already chosen your death. Joy returned to her room, shaking. Her head hurt. Her skin felt bruised. She fell onto the floor beside her bed and cried until her throat went dry. Then she remembered her mother's journal. She opened it again. A piece of yellowed paper slipped out from between two pages, a letter, addressed but never sent. Joy unfolded it. Till Ezekiel, 12 Glover Street, Old Ife Road, Ibadan, Nigeria. Dear Ezekiel, I pray this reaches you. You were right. William has changed. He claims he speaks to the ancestors, but the things he says, they are not of God. He says our bloodline must be continued through grace or joy. I fear for their safety. I fear for my life. If anything happens to me, please come for them. Save them. I don't know who else to trust. Mary William. Joy held the letter to her chest. Her mother had tried to get help. But the letter was never sent. She stared at the address. Ibadan. Not far. The name Ezekiel Okon rang like a forgotten bell in her head. She had never met him. But if he was still alive, he might be the only one who knew the truth. The next morning, Joy packed a small white bag. She didn't tell Grace. She didn't tell David. She sneaked out jumping the fence. She took her late mother's Bible and the letter, and she left. The bus ride to Ibadan was long. Her heart thudded with every mile. The trees seemed to whisper as they passed, and the sky grew darker the closer she came to the old city. By the time she arrived at 12 Glover Street, the sun was gone. The house was still there. A quiet bungalow hidden behind a wall of overgrown hibiscus. The gate was rusted, the paint peeled. It looked forgotten. She knocked, no answer. She knocked again, louder. A voice croaked from into the house. Who's asking? My name is Joy, she said. Joy William. My mother was Mary. Silence. Then the door creaked open. A man in his late 60s stood there, face shadowed by a dusty fedora. His eyes widened. Mary's child. Yes, Joy said, tears brimming. She tried to send you a letter. She needed your help. Ezekiel stepped back slowly. Then it's true, he whispered. The ritual was completed. You knew. I warned her. I warned him. That boy should never have been born. Please come inside. The dusty house smelled of old wood, dried leaves, and something forgotten like memories trapped in cobwebs. Ezekiel led Joy inside slowly, the creak of the door echoing in the quiet. You should not have come here. Ezekiel said, his voice rough but tired. This world you are stepping into is darker than you can imagine. Joy looked at him. You knew what was happening to my family. He nodded slowly, eyes full of regret. I was part of the secret priesthood sworn to guard families like yours. Families with ancient bloodlines connected to the spirits of the land, chosen to carry the sacred power through generations. Joy's heart pounded. Why did you not stop him? Ezekiel closed his eyes. William was once our brother, a guardian. But greed and ambition poisoned him. He betrayed us all, sacrificed his wife, his honor, for power beyond any man's right. He turned to dark forces, yes. The blood he carries is not just blessing. It's a curse now. And David, the little boy, carries it the most. Joy swallowed hard. Is there a way to stop it? To save David, Ezekiel shuffled through piles of old papers and dusty relics, finally pulling out a heavy book bound in cracked leather, embossed with strange symbols that shimmered faintly in the low light. This is the Book of Power. It contains rituals, ancient knowledge, and ways to break spiritual bonds. He handed the book carefully to Joy. There is a ritual here that could sever David's connection to the dark bloodline. Joy opened the book. The pages were filled with strange drawings, strange words, and drawings of creatures half seen in shadows. Her fingers trembled. But there is a price, Ezekiel warned. What price? The ritual requires a sacrifice, one who loves the child most. It demands blood to balance the bond. Joy's mind raced. You mean someone has to die? Ezekiel nodded. It is not just the child's life that hangs in the balance. It is the life of the one who performs the ritual. Why would my mother write to you then? Because she knew what William was becoming. She hoped someone would stop him and save her daughters and her grandson. Joy's eyes filled with tears. I have to try, she said. Be careful, Ezekiel said, placing his hand on her shoulder. William's power is not just in this world. The house protects him. If you fail, it will consume you. Joy felt the weight of the book heavy in her hands, the words almost burning her skin. She had no choice. The secrets of the past were now her burden. The fight for her family's soul had only just begun. Joy stood at the edge of the long, winding road that led to the mansion. The rusted gates loomed before her like the entrance to a grave. She clutched the old leather-bound book to her chest. Her heart was heavy. She had returned not for peace, but for war. The mansion hadn't changed. The tall pillars, the decaying fountain, the oppressive silence, but Joy had changed. She walked through the gates like a ghost, her footsteps echoing across the empty compound. The servants no longer spoke. Many had left. Some disappeared. Those who remained looked away when they saw her. The shadows felt thicker, the air heavier. She entered the house. That night, Joy locked herself in the hidden storeroom underneath the mansion. She placed the book on a stone table lit by a single candle and opened it to the page Ezekiel had shown her, to sever the bloodline bound by spirit and flesh. It read, one must break the circle with blood born of love, not sin. She laid out the sacred tools, ashes from her mother's prayer shawl, a thread from David's favorite blanket, the crushed seeds of bitter kola, and finally, a drop of her own blood, freely offered. She walked in secret for days, preparing the circle. The house groaned above her, as if it felt her betrayal. Each night she heard strange noises, footsteps where there was no one, whispers in rooms she hadn't entered, cold winds that blew without open windows. One morning, David ran to her with a drawing. I drew you in a fire, he said with innocent eyes. Joy froze. The picture showed her inside a circle, flames around her, and above what looked like her mother's face, weeping. Did anyone tell you about that? She asked. No, David said. The dream drew it for me. He handed her another. It showed Mary, surrounded by shadowy figures, a man's hand reaching toward her with fire in his palm. A ring on the hand. A scar on the wrist. It was Mr. William. Joy's breath caught in her throat. It was true. The dream she'd had in Ibadan wasn't fantasy, it was memory passed to her in spirit. That night, Joy lay in bed and dreamed of her mother again. She saw Mary in the study, begging her husband not to go through with it. They are your daughters, William. Mary had cried. It is an abomination, but William, calm and cold, replied. You don't understand. The bloodline must continue. If the gods ask for a sacrifice, I will give it. Mary's scream echoed. Her body burned from within. The next morning, they buried her quietly. The world was told she died in her sleep. Joy awoke sobbing, trembling. The truth crushed her. Inspector Yinka's return. 3 days later, Inspector Yinka arrived. He stood at the door with a folder under his arm and concern written on his face. Grace greeted him nervously. "You shouldn't be here," she whispered. "My father doesn't like visitors." "I just need to see something," he replied. As he walked inside, the house seemed to exhale. Joy found him later in the study, opening a drawer she never knew existed. Inside, old photographs of ritual markings, the vanished midwives' names, and a hand-drawn version of the secret book. "You don't understand what you've stepped into," Joy said, stepping into the room. "Help me understand," Yinka replied. "No," she said softly, stepping close. "This house watches. My father will return soon. If he finds you, he won't let you leave. Please go." He hesitated. "Please go. And if I survive what's coming, I'll find you." He nodded, reluctantly, and slipped out the back gate. It was the last time she saw him. Joy lit the candles in the storeroom. She drew the symbols with chalk soaked in blood and herbs. The flame from the beeswax candles flickered as if unsure whether to stay lit or abandon her. David slept upstairs, unaware. Grace sat in her room, staring out the window, tears silently falling. The house held its breath. The great doors creaked. William stepped in, his eyes glowing faintly golden. "So," he said quietly, walking down the stairs. "The rebellious daughter returns." Joy stood inside the ritual circle. "It ends tonight," she said. "You think a book and candles can stop a bloodline anointed by the spirits of the earth? You murdered my mother." William smiled. "She was weak, and Grace. She enjoyed me in bed. Your own daughter. You made her bear your son." "Shut up, Joy. She obeyed me. You are the mistake." The house began to shake. Windows shattered, the air turned black. "The sacrifice." Joy lit the final candle. "I give my blood freely," she whispered. "Let it break the chain." A great wind blew. The candle flames burned tall and white. The circle glowed. Mary's spirit appeared beside her, eyes full of pain and pride. "Finish it," Mary whispered. William screamed, charging toward the circle, but the light swallowed him. He roared as the shadows turned on him. His body twisted, bones snapping, until he was dragged into the floor, swallowed by the bloodline he tried to preserve. Silence fell. The next morning, the mansion stood silent. David woke, smiling for the first time. Grace found Joy lying in the ritual circle, unconscious but breathing. She cried over her sister, whispering thanks. The curse had ended. The mansion was emptied. The remaining servants left. The portraits were burned. Peace at last. They buried Mary properly, under a tree. Joy visited her grave with David and Grace every year. They moved far away and started their lives again. David grew strong and kind. Grace found laughter again. Joy lived quietly, never speaking of the house, but every now and then, she dreamed of their mother Mary, and her dreams, at last, were filled with peace. Evil done in secret will always come to light. Family should be a place of love, not manipulation. Silence in the face of evil allows evil to grow. Power without conscience is dangerous. The truth may be painful, but it brings freedom. A cursed foundation cannot build a peaceful future. Spiritual matters should not be taken lightly. Food for thought. What are we protecting in our families? Love or legacy? How far would you go to break a generational curse? Thank you so much for watching this story. Please share your thoughts in the comment section. If this story touched you, shocked you, or left you thinking, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more deep and powerful stories like this. Let others hear what you've heard today. See you in the next video and bye for now.